So without further ado, I'd like to call on Jason Rowe, who established a company called Parkia, which allows you to pay for parking using your smartphone, and it's one of the companies that's been being supported by the Enterprise Board.
So my name is Jason Rowe. About almost 2 years ago, we started a journey down the road working with Dublin City Council. It started an event called the 18-Hour Open Data Challenge, where they invited startups, entrepreneurs, tech people to come in and take a look at the types of information that the city had and come up with creative ways of using that information. One of the biggest pieces of information that was there was around parking in the city. So as a tech guy, I was kind of going, it's a no-brainer, I'll go for that one. Unfortunately, not everyone thought that it was a great idea, so I went on and did it myself throughout that period. At the end of the 18-hour data challenge, I was up against 2 or 3 teams, and we came in second place. So that's kind of where our journey started on this road. Is there a clicker? So what we actually do is, we started off just as a very how do you find parking and how do I make a payment and all that kind of stuff. But as we went through the whole process, we found there's actually a really big kind of gaping hole in the way cities work, and it's to understand actually where people go within cities, how long they tend to stay there for, and then being able to deliver services better based on that information. So should I have that type of service in that type of place when nobody uses it? Or should I, develop that in a better way? What we found was that that's not very profitable, so most cities don't want to pay for that, and we were okay with that. However, we found that the other interested parties who were very interested in that were the likes of brands and advertisers, who also have a vested interest in consumers. So we went down that kind of road to be able to explore how a consumer arrives into a city, where they arrive, and their intent of how long they're going to stay for was our value proposition. What that basically means is we look at big data or big location data. In terms of what we built, so we built a consumer application. On the back of it, it helps consumers find on-street parking locations around cities. We integrate with payment providers that were already within the city, so we didn't have to reinvent the wheel, we just use the services that are already available. What we tend to do is we tag location information when you make a payment, so we know whereabouts that payment happens. That means we can do all that other magical stuff that we talked about knowing where people are. This is kind of just a really quick flow of how it works. Go to the destination, check in, and then deals, location information, or other information around service delivery can be delivered. In terms of validation, we worked with Dublin City, all these payment providers. We also worked with the Irish Times, Metro Herald. The piece I was asked at the start of today was if I had to be made aware of a couple of different things along the way, what would they be? And I guess we took an interesting journey. So we started off with that the 18-hour Open Data Challenge. We went on to New Frontiers and the Link, and then we went into the NDRC here onto Launchpad. We availed of a couple of different of those services along the way. I guess the big piece I wasn't aware is, I suppose, as the previous speakers kind of said, there is so many things you could be doing. There's so many things you could apply for, and it came down to community. So the tech community has this this great atmosphere in terms of help and support. There's so many regular meetups and events, and that's the ecosystem that's been building up ever since about 2009. And I think that's how we found the channels of which things we should go to, what we should apply for, what's actually worth our time. And in terms of, I know that's just technology, and there's a much bigger piece to play, but those other ecosystems that are also there. So I wish that was there for everyone. And I think the tech community is it's all embracing, so you don't have to be a techie, you can just kind of get involved. So they see it.
Thanks, Jason. And now I'd like to call on Tom Ponsonby of Excite. They're a digital marketing agency that works in WordPress, websites, SEO, and graphic design.
Hello, hi. Good afternoon. I'm just going to sort out my presentation here hopefully. Excite Communications. We started, I sort of went from being someone buying marketing services to someone providing them. because I was working in America for the European Commission for John Root when he was the European Commission ambassador to the United States. And I came back here and I was trying to run political services and political campaigns. And I got very frustrated trying to buy services that were like web design, graphic design, promotion of websites, which were actually very expensive to buy. So after spending huge amounts of my candidates' money at the start, I then started project managing using different freelancers, going from agencies, going below agencies deeper in and finding individual guys who weren't paid very much and employing them, paying them a little bit more, and getting them to produce things themselves. So that is Excite. So this is Excite, where we are now. We're a digital agency. So we grew out of that basically like politicians are only about 20% of our business now. We actually work predominantly in the commercial sector, working for startup businesses, supporting startups. People seem to start a company, they want to get a logo or a website before they even have a solicitor or an accountant or any of these sort of things. So so we start up. We work with a lot of startups and that sort of jazz. We're based in innovation. We built credibility. We have over 300 websites now in just under 4 years. And we manage them as well. And then we do this by being creative. So just to look very, very briefly at why we do it. I've already explained that when we were setting up here. The market is growing for a digital services company. If you look at advertising spending, digital is the only one that's actually growing. Like all the rest are actually declining. So we hope we're in the right sector. Why I was very pleased to be invited to speak here is that we don't really fit totally with the high-tech startup or even the high-potential startup. We are a service-based industry. We haven't got massive growth potential, and as a result of that, we sort of fell through the net a tiny bit in terms of funding and support from the different agencies in Dublin. So this is something to consider. But yet now we employ 8 people full time, and we have a network of other support staff, and we provide internet experience. We provide other things. So we are, I suppose, we're not making huge amounts of cash, we're not paying huge amounts of tax, but we are providing steady jobs and a steady industry, and we're providing services to other startups. So maybe this is something which the tables can look at later on. So what we do then is we offer design services. We design logos, graphics, offline material, and we do web design. We do development of websites, social media, email marketing. We design for Facebook. We design apps for the phone, for anything else. We then do marketing, offline and predominantly online. But I think marketing these days, what is digital marketing? All marketing is digital marketing. There's no such thing as old-fashioned marketing anymore, because all marketing is interactive and is integrated. So we provide marketing services predominantly online and using digital methods. So we promote websites, we design websites that are all in one content, that are inclusive of SEO, etc. And we provide support. This is our differentiating factor to a lot of the other digital agencies in Dublin. We manage websites and we provide training and support for websites. So this is why we do quite well with, say, politicians, because they may not have the staff or may not have people who are dedicated to managing the website. A solicitor's firm, say, of senior people, they maybe, the average partner maybe about 60. The average, other junior people are not really don't have time to be looking at websites and tinkering with their website. I mean, I have the inclination or the know-how to. So we can provide a service where we update the website and look after their website, and we give them a social media presence. So that is Excite, my company. Just looking at it, Startup City, we were then asked to see if we have any views on what I've already sort of touched on, what we can do to help. I just thought we'd look at what supports can be given to startup companies. So we've got green shoots. How do we make them grow? I suppose the first thing which everyone looks at is the money. You've got the initial capital required for starting, and you've got funding, sort of capital required for funding. I'll come back to that funding growth. I'll come back to that because I think that's where we are. At the start, you've got sort of management support. You can look at things like you need help with law, human resources, and say taxation. This is something that we sort of fell foul of. We didn't, because we fell out of the net a tiny bit. We didn't have maybe proper guidance. We've done a lot of learning in 4 years the hard way through every mistake that we've made. We shouldn't have made. We've been through and we've made. So recruitment is quite difficult. It's very expensive, and it's something which I find quite difficult to get good people. And also office and infrastructure. I know there are, and Joanne mentioned there are a lot of spaces to work in. But again, if you're not a high potential exporting startup, then you may be a bit more limited. By the way, we are now. We do 20% of our business in the UK. We do business elsewhere. But we slowly got there. We didn't have one as a businessman. We didn't look like one that was going to get there. And then the last one is business development. The main startup, the main support really that we've always needed is help getting more business. So that's networking, be it through referrals, be it through marketing. Pitching and tendering is quite difficult. When you've got these tenders are massive. If you've ever gone for a government tender, you really need a mentor to try and help you fill these out. People charge €1,000 a day to consult and fill these things out for good reason. So my two bugbears, one would be helping with tendering. A lot of these tenders require you to have audited accounts for 3 years and public liability professional indemnity insurance of 3 million. We couldn't. Our turnover is probably less than the cost to get a professional indemnity insurance for 1 year at that rate. And then, as I said before, funding for growth. We're now at a stage where we're fairly proven. We've never had an overdraft. We've never taken a loan, and we're now looking at. We're now going to be looking at. We haven't been denied this yet, but we're now looking at going for funding to help us employ more people, help us set up an office in the UK, possibly elsewhere. So that's Excite Communications. We're a digital agency, and thank you for inviting me forward.
Thanks, John. And now I'd like to call on Yinka Ram, whose company is Hair Weave On. They create hair pieces for women and men using real hair, and they're sold via the Wig Clinic.
Hi, how are you? I'm just going to talk very quickly about how Hair Weave On came about. I've worn hair extensions and hair pieces most of my life. It's a black girl thing. We are pretty paranoid about our hair, and we want long, luscious hair. So I was determined to bring really good quality hair extensions and hair pieces to the woman who wears hair extensions or hair pieces all the time. And I just felt that the quality of products in that market that we could get in Ireland were really crap, really bad. So I wanted to bring really high quality stuff here. So in 2011, I set up Hair Weave On, and we started off as an e-commerce hair extensions company. Where we are now, we're an online and offline business, and how we went about being offline is that more and more people were asking us to manufacture or make wigs or hair pieces for hair loss clients. So women experiencing hair loss, either be through cancer, chemotherapy, alopecia, were asking us to use our high quality raw materials to make hair pieces for them that will look and feel just like their own hair. So now we're online. We sell our hair extensions and hair pieces online, and we recently opened a hair clinic in Rathmines, Dublin, where we offer private consultations for hair loss clients, both men and women. Earlier this year we started hair replacement for men, which is going really well as well. And we also supply salons and other retailers which are high quality hair extensions and hair products. Our customers are the girl who wants long luscious hair, the woman who is experiencing hair loss, the man who wants to enhance his look, and the HSC as well. We're a registered HSC provider of hair pieces for hair loss clients who have a medical card. In terms of what can be done differently in support services, I must say I'm a bit disappointed that the Lord Mayor and the Dublin City Manager have left, because I would like to just point out that the Dublin City Enterprise Board have been very good to me. They're a very great resource to have. Their door is always open. I know a lot of the guys by name here, Liam, Maynard, Greg. I know them by name because their door is always open. And it's a great resource to have, and I hope that when they move offices that their great work will continue. Easy access to finance. My business I pretty much funded with my own savings. It would be great if there was some kind of reduced interest rate negotiated with the banks to help businesses like myself start up, and in the phase that we are, grow as well. a database of special offers for new businesses. Businesses starting out need web development, they need graphic design, they need taxation, they need a variety of services, and perhaps a database of businesses offering a startup business discount would be very beneficial. Training and mentoring as well. I've had some great mentors through the Dublin City Enterprise Board. I've had some really good ones and not so good ones. And perhaps a mentoring and training voucher that allows you not to only avail of the training programs that they offer on their website, but other training programs that maybe they don't offer, which would also be beneficial. That's me.
Thanks, Yinka. And now I'd like to call on Graham Clark of Cookie Dough, whose company allows you to make your own cookies using cookie dough.
Just saved me my first slide anyway. So we started in 2008 making cookie dough from a 5-litre mixer in the house. I suppose we literally just went down to the local cash and carry, the flour, chocolate, sugar, eggs, all that kind of stuff, and just gave it a go. We started off at farmers markets. We were pretty much on a cold face there, and people are quite honest when you're asking them for hard-earned money for something that they can literally sample in front of you. So that allowed us to kind of hone the product, and and it was a bit of it was our market research as well to an extent. We didn't have access to sample groups and all these kind of things. So we measured our initial success on the amount of cash that we went home on every day. And through that then we got in touch with the enterprise boards, which they moved us on quite quickly. I suppose they gave us mentoring and finance. I suppose through that it allowed us to kind of, the initial business plan was to start a company, get finance, build a factory, employ hundreds of people, and become millionaires overnight and retire off the back of that. What we realised quite quickly, again, that wasn't going to happen due to what was going on, and production facilities and that weren't too, they were difficult enough. Price-wise, they were all going to be more expensive. So, working with a mentor, we decided that we would outsource the production, which took a lot of headache out of it and allowed us to, focus on staying agile. And we're firm believers of letting people that are good at what they do that. So. From there, in nearly 4 years, we've taken the product from farmers markets to all the major retailers here in Ireland. We're currently exporting to Waitrose in the UK, and we're focusing on building that business this year. We are in Dubai, in the Emirates as well, and I suppose what's allowed us to do that again has been our focus on staying agile. We've really taken advantage of mobile technologies. Things like having Dropbox, even email on your phone. Once we got the iPhones when they came out initially, it was a big expense for us on the day, but they definitely paid for themselves over and over again. And then staying on top of things like apps like Genius Scan and Skype and things like this allows us all to keep the overheads down, which calculating the true cost of an overhead with something when our products are essentially variable costs, and it becomes a bit of a science. So I suppose that's been our thing, is to just keep overheads down at all costs. And another reason that we've kind of, I would say we progressed so quickly is that we're constantly reviewing and improving everything. The overall strategy, as I said, was to build a big factory, and obviously we didn't see that would happen. We sat down one day to review and improve, and then decided that wasn't the way to go. But the strategy still remained the same, to become a recognised brand in confectionery dough products. And so we've taken that from the Walmart model, and what I found just in interacting with a lot of startups and food businesses, that owner-manager companies tend to get very focused on the day-to-days and forget the overall goal, and they'll lose a lack of, they say, I want time to sit back and reassess on a weekly basis. What happens is you end up just running in circles, or you're running on the spot. So that's something we've done, and it's allowed us to always take that funny phone call and reply to that kind of strange email you might get, and from it, we've found, by chance we found our new supplier, that we changed to last year. And as I was already saying to Billy, another one was we've also moved on into food service, which is again just answering a phone call. If we were too busy at the time, we would have missed, and it's become quite a good part of our business. Just to review our experience starting in Dublin, was we're lucky for the industry that we're in, that food, it's quite well supported by Borbia, and it was great. The DCB, as I said, the mentor had worked with Borbia, and they allowed us to make that step from the DCB to getting support from Borbia as well. So I mean, the finance thing, you never have enough money when you're in a startup. I think everybody's going to agree with you there. But again, you need to we needed to cut our cloth accordingly and make sure anytime we did go for finance that we had an argument better than the next guy. So we really, again, it's what's starting in the current economic climate that we're in. It allowed us all to be a bit more prudent and only ask for it when you needed it. I suppose, Dublin has been very good to us as a company. I struggled really to find where, again, anything that perhaps the DCB had let down on Borbia were able to fill in the gaps, and vice versa. I suppose just from Dublin, I think, just touching on what some of the guys said, you have the techies, you have your designers, and everything else. I think one thing we missed, Borbia were great for providing, was a network of food startups. Everybody seemed to have the same problems, and everybody seemed, bigger companies seemed to solve those every day. What I would have liked to have had at the start was perhaps a broader spectrum of a network, into, again, the techies, into the designers, and again, there's a lot of these companies starting up at the moment, which, and something a lot of companies do these days is let's get the young PR firm who are hungry for business, and again, startups will inherently have their own problems, and as I said, things like tech companies will just look at problems that we may have with, as websites or whatnot, and just step in and scratch their head and see it as a smaller problem than we would. So I think that's what I would have liked to have seen more of, perhaps a forum where, where perhaps new clients to the enterprise board were introduced, perhaps on an email, and provision of almost a startup forum that online could be easily interacted with, WhatsApp groups and things like this. So yeah, that's pretty much me, guys.
Thanks, Greg. And our final speaker is Jason Tully from Build Cost, who's a company of quantity surveyors.
My name is Jason Tully, and I'm co-owner of Build Cost, Chartered Quantity Surveyors. Just for those who don't know what a quantity surveyor is, basically we prepare and control budgets on construction projects from inception right through to completion. That's it in a nutshell. We do a lot of our services, high level, that's what we do. So in preparation for this presentation, we were asked 3 questions. The first one was, what is our business? Well, as I said, we're a chartered quantity surveying practice. We're based in Dublin, and we are established a year and a half, since February 2012. And we believe we're experts in providing cost consultancy on construction and refurbishment projects. We provide quantity surveying services, cost consultancy and project management services across all industry sectors. And we have a strong team of highly motivated and professional quantity surveyors that support staff in our Dublin office. Services, we offer our services a unique advantages over our competitors through a service we call value engineering, and I'll explain about that in the next slide. And our service centres around reducing costs on construction projects without impacting on the quality of the design. The next question we were asked is, what's making us a success? Well, a couple of points there. As I mentioned earlier, our value engineering service. This process involves challenging the design at an early stage and providing feedback to the client and the design teams to allow key decisions to be made early on in the project, and we review various design options at an early stage, and we put forward alternative solutions to designs. The approach ensures that the final design is maximised in terms of efficiency, and that unnecessary expenditure is removed from the project, and it doesn't impact on the overall quality of the design building. Accuracy of our tender documents, I think it's really, really key to get good quality tender documents at the start of the project. So we spend time assisting with the preparation of accurate tender documents, and we try and look at the risks involved in the project and how we can deal with these and how we can apportion them in the tender documents. Do we keep it on the client side, or do we hand it over to the contractor? So we look at those kind of issues. Another thing, what's making us a success is that we deliver all of our projects within budget, and we believe through our experience we have the key ingredients to do that. And we've got the ability, although we're a small company, we have the ability to manage portfolios. We're currently providing services to clients with some of the largest property portfolios in Dublin. We provide them with our various services, including quantity surveying and also reinstatement valuations for insurance purposes. And these portfolios would range anywhere from small retail units or residential units to large commercial units and office blocks and shopping centres. And also our clients are making us a success, because although we're a small company and we're only going a year and a half, we've got some key big clients who have taken a punt on us, and we seem to be getting repetitive business from them, so it's recommended we're building on the strengths of our clients as well. And then the third question we were asked is, what could Dublin have done to make it easier? Well, as some of the speakers touched on, it's financial support. As directors, we use some of our savings to start up, which is fair enough, but as a professional service, we couldn't get any funding from the DCEB, because I think on the website it says it's the placement of jobs, but in actual fact, with the way the industry is, we're actually creating jobs. And then we offer we've got some contracts in the Netherlands to provide some of our value engineering services on some of the large scale projects over there. And again, we use our own finances to set up over there, and traveling expenses and stuff like that. And then the other thing is maybe provide opportunities, as Tom touched on there, about procurement, public procurement. It's quite difficult to get on the ladder when you're a startup. You've got a lot of stuff to fill in, but maybe there could be some scheme, which excludes companies who have been in business over 5 years or something like that, to give small companies starting up, especially with DCC and some of their refurbishment projects. We would love to get involved in them, but it's just really very difficult. So that's my presentation. Thanks for listening.
I remember standing up and asking a question and saying what age I was, really young. I thought I had this idea, but I was really scared, and just the encouragement that I got from all the other women in the room was great. I went on to do the Start Your Own Business course, and I've pretty much done every single course they offer on their website, from social media, taxation for a new business, and they've really, really been benefited me in my business. So that's kind of the route that.
I sort of started trading by accident, I suppose, and that I was making websites while working in another job, and then things came from that. So it wasn't until we actually moved into an office on Bagger Street that we then decided, okay, there must be, people, unofficial mentors said there must be funding here, there must be different things. But by that stage, we sort of, we did engage, and I did start our business course. But again, it wasn't really, we didn't really tick any of the boxes, so we didn't really get that much luck in putting things forward.
Can I just add to that? So, although we went through the process after the 8-year old data challenge, about 2006 I had my first business, which was a consultancy business. We did one of the Start Your Own Business courses, and I think we found ourselves in a similar situation. We couldn't access anything because we're a service company. And I was I didn't appreciate the services back then, and I guess that drove us to look at a product, and that's the direction we went because of that. So there's pros and cons to it. I think consultancy businesses they're very important, and they do generate a lot of jobs. And I think the focus has always been on products, and maybe that's because of the direction towards exports. So I don't know how we balance that out, but I found the same with the service business. So.
We started trading, as I said, pretty much from the kitchen table and started turning cash. It was an ideal thing in the States, and we thought like we do some great ingredients here in Ireland, why not bring it home, especially when we're team biscuit lovers anyway. It was kind of, why haven't we done here before? So yeah, we got in touch with the local social welfare who put us on the back work enterprise scheme, which allowed us to draw our benefits legitimately when we were starting home. And it was through farmers markets and stuff that I came across other entrepreneurs who would say you need to get in touch with us at this stage if you think your idea is worth so that's pretty much what we started.
So the first people we went to is the bank with the business plan to try and get some facilities set up. But my situation was I actually left a good job to start this company, and if it didn't work out I was in trouble because I couldn't, as you said, you got the back to work education, back to work scheme. I couldn't get that because I left the company. So and then I was on websites like the Dublin City Enterprise Board, and I seen they don't support professional services. So we just had to plow on and go off, and it's only in the last couple of months now we started to get the mentoring from the Dublin City Enterprise Board. But we were so focused on just trying to get started and get set up, and you're using your savings that you have there, and just plow on and get it going.
Question?
Hi. Joanne mentioned changing mindsets, moving from, don't get a job, build a business. I was wondering what kind of attitudes that you encountered, let's say, from wider friends and family when you were setting up a business, and how you think, we should go about changing attitudes.
Well, everyone thought I was mad because the way the construction industry was. I was in a job, I was secure, and all of a sudden I was leaving to set up my own company. We just seen there was a bit of growth. There was a small bit of opportunities for smaller companies. Bigger companies didn't have the staff to service bigger projects. So we seen a kind of niche in the market there where we could, get in on a lower level and really service smaller projects and then build from there. But everyone was like, you're mad, you're absolutely mad. You're going into an industry. What are you going to do if it didn't work out? And it was very, very negative. So it's only in the last couple of months when people see, things are going well, that it was a great thing to do.
I suppose I was the same. My friends of mine was like, what? You're going to set up a business? What about so and so who are doing the same thing? But I always stuck to my idea and my motivation, what motivated me in the start, and what I was going to do very differently. And I suppose surrounding myself with other women in business by joining the Women's Network and feeding from their energy really did help me. And what I always say to people is, if you don't do it, someone else will. And what's the worst that could happen in the country that we're in? You're not going to go hungry, So I say, go for it and do it.
So I guess on the parallel side, I grew up with an entrepreneurial family. Like I'm not talking super successful. I'm just talking day-to-day hard graft. So growing up, it was more, there's always options there. And in terms of friends around me, I think they'd always seen all those things happening, so that was never really a big deal. I think the biggest piece was around, I guess I recently got engaged and married, during this crazy process. So I guess those are the kind of things you never really know how those relationships will evolve over time. I guess they're the most important things, I guess. I just find it fascinating with friends. I think everyone sees it as a crazy ambition to go and do something on your own. I've been in a number of pretty well-paid jobs, but I go crazy, so I can't stay in those jobs for very long. So when people see me in that sense, and then see me doing what I'm doing outside of it, I think they see that that's the better place for me to be, and that's probably where it comes in. So.
I agree. It's sort of like it's a lifestyle rather than as well. I mean, it sort of defines who you are. And I've been involved in a couple of things since I was maybe 14 or 15. I've had a few startup ideas at other companies, of mixed feelings, successes. I mean, it does become who you are. But I think I met great support from my friends and family, but I found a lot of resistance from the industry, from other people in the industry, because web design, there were two a penny. There were lots of different companies around back in 2008, 2009 when I started. But we used, as I think was alluded to, WordPress and other open source technology to provide websites quicker and sort of faster than these proprietary systems that were used up until then. And a lot of these companies would keep you hostage because they own the code of your website. You couldn't go anywhere else. So when we came in making websites which are actually much better and much quicker to build, much cheaper than them, I was literally people coming up to me at Dublin City Enterprise Board events actually saying, "You're ruining the industry. What are you doing? Well, you shouldn't be selling websites so cheap. You shouldn't be. We shouldn't. We probably wouldn't make more money if we didn't. But there was resistance to change."
I think overall, attitudes over the last, we started in 2008. I think attitudes have definitely changed towards entrepreneurship and young people starting business. I went into all the business supposed to do, the Canadian points and go to college and get your degree and stuff like that. And for my peers then who were working in London and investment banks and everything else, to hear I'm standing behind the farmers market with the Lorgan for 2 months. It was only 2 months we were in farmers market, yet every time I see them, it's all about farmers market. And then, I don't know, is that an attitudinal thing or what is it, but I suppose it's the next thing you're going to actually we're make up the supermarkets now, we haven't done in so many years. So one of the things we did, and again, it was through the enterprise boards and board B, and board B, I suppose, was probably more beneficial because we were surrounded by food businesses, and all of a sudden we were surrounded by like-minded people, and to have the support of those guys, as I said, to kind of, I was saying, it's always better to learn from other people's mistakes because it's cheaper, and to have people around and say, no, you're doing the right things. If only I was doing this when I started, I did this for 6 months before I realised that losing my backside. So I think if you buy into what you think people are saying behind your back or to your face too much, you just need to change who you're talking to and surround yourself by, as I said, looking at people with the similar attitudes.
Question.
I'm working on the purchasing power group, so I thought you three of you mentioned the thing about the difficulty of purchasing from public bodies, and what could be done, or what would make that easier for you for a startup? I think one of you mentioned the thing about having 3 years accounts or the levels of insurance, but what, I suppose, when you see a tender or a thing on e-tenders, what's your initial reaction to tendering to a public body?
I think it's...
You can be rude.
Time consuming, and you could be up against, some of the people went for public schools, and there could be 24 QS practices going for €1 million scheme, and you could spend 2 days doing a submission, and it's very time consuming, there's a lot of paperwork. And if you don't have, just to say, it's like, without saying You know, they know who like, this, you know, it's a school will want their own people or, you know, that sort of stuff. But if they don't know you, basically, even if you're going through the public procurement system, we found that you won't do well.
I'd say maybe a sort of mentoring, a consultation process or a support process for companies trying to fill these things out, because they really are like exams of, you know, I mean, they need dedicated man days to do them, if not weeks. And bigger companies have people whose job is basically to do tenders. So it is quite difficult but I suppose that's what you have to do to get there. So I suppose in answer to the question, we could maybe mentoring and free support basically to try and help you do them, and then fill them out, and then also maybe for smaller state contracts or smaller, you know, semi-state or peripheral organisations, maybe they could relax some of these needs and use a slightly less laborious tendering process.
I would say moving away from the paper application process and maybe a video application process, as well as a bit of paper, because not everyone's very good at putting on paper what they're good at and their passion. But when you stand in front of someone, especially when they're new business, their passion does come across, and the determination and what they can deliver might come across better than what they might put on paper.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe something like interviews or something. You know, you can get in front of someone. It's easier to explain and get to know people.
Can I just add to that, being 15 years in business and being remembering very well where you were and trying to get in on government contracts, and now having government contracts, it still is difficult, you know, and it in my mind, it isn't who you know, it's all about just putting in the very best tender you can. We're a lot quicker at it now, but the amount of time that we put into it is just phenomenal days and weeks that go into tenders that sometimes we just don't get, but sometimes we do. So it's not just a startup phenomenon, and when we're remembering this, it is a difficult process.
So just to add something, I guess I'm very critical of procurement in general, especially public procurement, across the board, mainly because I think we all know, anyone who's dealt with procurement, there's always preferred suppliers within procurement chains, either relationships or other things like that. And that's very hard to get around, and it's very hard to even that out. But in terms of how tenders are constructed and how projects actually get into fruition, into terms of people tend to push out large projects because it's easier to get a large project out the door. And my own opinion is projects need to be broken up at an earlier phase, to say that before you can ever qualify to get a big project, you need to do a trial project at a smaller level, at a smaller stage. I think the requirements for those types of trial projects could be much freer in terms of procurement, because there's less of risk in terms of financial, in terms of the companies that have to deliver the projects, in terms of all of those things. And it kind of proves there's then a proof point that the project is going to work later on down the road, and that's worthwhile investing in. And I think that's the bit that procurement misses, is that we have to try this stuff, make sure it works. If it works, then we do the bigger bits and reinvest. And some people have done that really well. Enterprise Ireland do that pretty well. And I think there are other opportunities for across the kind of parallel, of government to be able to try that out. So.
I work with a lot of startup business, small startup businesses, and mainly service driven. So I suppose, looking at businesses up there, at what point did it become sort of a job and then move on to the business? Where was the progression and how did that happen?
So I guess I'll answer that. So in terms of a job in a business, it's a very blurry kind of thing. It's only business when you make money. Otherwise it's nothing. So if it's not profitable, then it's that's when you kind of the question mark is there. Whether a business should be a job is a different question. It depends on what your aspiration is. If you're just looking to replace what you had with something new, then I think it needs to be evaluated. I think if you're going to step out of a job and do something else, it has to be a bigger piece. and it has to be not just about you anymore, it has to be about your team and your company and what you're trying to do in the future. So I guess that's the
I think mine is still very much a business, and I'm still very much enjoying what I do and passionate about what I do. I know how important my clients' care is to them, so that still keeps me going. And I'm motivated by developing my staff now that I have. I think that when it starts to become a job is when I exit.
To wrap up with one more question, I'd just like to ask you, each of you, what is the most difficult thing you've had to do, a crazy thing to keep your business going?
I'll start with that. The most difficult thing we had to do was let people go. Actually, change the team, re-engineer how we were, so change the skills, and sort of fire friends or well, people. Everyone's friends when you're in small companies. So it was to move from being a college society as such to being a commercial entity and take tough decisions. That was probably the most difficult, and not having any money was also quicker.
For me, it's just taking the shackles off and just, going out there and talking to people and meeting people and don't be afraid. It's just, I don't care if it says no, I just have to go and I have to meet this person, I ring this person, and that's what I'm developing at the moment, so that's quite difficult for me, some of these things, I release the shackles and, accept no for an answer and move on and try on the next person.
From the starter perspective, I'd probably say after spending a lot of money, and you spend a lot of money your first time around doing a number of things like website development, branding, and getting feedback, and just knowing in yourself that it's still not good enough and having to start again. The logo's not right, the website is still not right, and thinking of the thousands of euros you've spent already and having to do it all over again, that's really hard. But are people going to know the new logo? Are people going to recognise the new website? But having the strength to do that and doing it better the next time around and realising that's not really wasted money necessarily, it's a learning process, and doing it again and doing it well will stand to you down the line.
I think belief is one of the, belief in yourself is one of the toughest things I found, because when things are really bad, it's very hard to look up and see that there's a way out of certain things, and everyone gets really high and really low, so it's trying to work out when you get to that when, can you believe that it's going to be able to get out there and do those things, and it depends on where your business is at, and depends on which peak or trough you're on. I think that's always the hardest thing, to be able to pick yourself up when you're there and just get on with it.
Greg, the last word to you.
suppose being a small company, starting, especially in the world of brands and that, and marketing fund or marketing budgets are pretty non-existent. So I suppose the single craziest thing we kind of did was use going on the Dragon's Den as a bit of a marketing stunt. We it was high risk, I suppose, to go on there, and the intention was always to turn them down. It was just to showcase the product. And you see people go on initially, they wanted to show diagrams of what their company is. We just literally went on and threw the big logo up behind us and kind of fended them off for 2.5 hours and hoped that it would work. So luckily it did. We got the 10-minute slot, and I think definitely it was one of definitely the single most craziest thing that we've done as a company.